Guys, I'm going to start this video with a bit of a personal explanation, a bit of a mea culpa, a bit of a plea, if you will. Somewhere triangulated between those three emotions is where I want to start this, because there are two very big points that I want to make at the end of this video, and I want to get there without sounding partisan, because that's not from where I am coming. What happened between Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden is an absolute farce. Now, I say that and I put that out there first. I am one of these people that wishes to live a completely apolitical life. I do not want to talk about politics. I do not want to have to worry about politics. I do not want to have anything to do with politics. I don't trust politicians. I don't believe in government. Obviously, a little bit of government I think is a good thing. I don't believe in big government for sure. I think that most of the things that the government does are basically theft. Not talking exactly about taxation, but implementation for sure. I am one of these people that wants to be as distant from politics as possible, and the reason that I think I'm having to delve into these situations and topics now is because I have been so hands off for so long. In order for people like me to exist, people that want to be hands off, people that want nothing to do with politics, the politicians, the system, and everything that those two things are combining to create have to be trustworthy. Maybe not to be acting in my best interest, but at least the general public's best interest. Maybe not to make things greater for me, after all, I am opting out, but I should be able to trust the government in general to not be actively acting against everyone, except for themselves, whom they are enriching constantly. That is the world that has to exist for the people like me to be able to sit on the sidelines from this argument. The argument I want to make is behind me. I want to talk about literature. I want to talk about philosophy. I want to talk about ideas. That's what I do on my other channel, Strip Cover Lit. That's why I don't touch that channel with these things. I can't any longer. Here's what we have. This is an article from the Daily Mail. Basically, what has happened: California is once again on fire. California is once again devastated. There's a lot more pushback this time because they're much richer people losing their homes. But I digress. There's much more powerful, influential people losing their homes. But I digress. This might be the one Gavin Newsom cannot explain his way out from under, because these richer, more powerful, more influential people are the ones losing their homes. But I digress. The fact is, Gavin Newsom is taking a whole lot more flack this time around. And not just because of those powerful individuals, etc. Because this time around, it seems that the absolute and dire incompetence have compounded, and nothing worked right. Absolutely nothing worked right. So, in light of this, Gavin Newsom is trying to find out how he's going to slime and squirrel his way out from under this. From the Daily Mail, in an article titled "Gavin Newsom Issues Strange Plea to Joe Biden as He Faces Furious Backlash for Wildfire Response." Gavin Newsom was blasted after complaining that social media misinformation is hurting residents in his state as fires are still raging. The California governor spoke about his struggles during a briefing with President Joe Biden during a remote video briefing in the Oval Office. Here's what Gavin Newsom said. "I ask you, we got to deal with this misinformation. There are hurricane-force winds of mis- and disinformation, lies, people who want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well," Newsom said. Newsom appeared deeply disturbed by recent conversations he had with his constituents that he felt were laced with unsuitable questions. It breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling, and that we're up against those hurricane forces as well, he said. Nothing is his fault, by the way. Don't you notice? Nothing is his fault. It's all these partisan hacks that are coming to attack him. All the partisan hacks that live in Los Angeles. Okay, if that's the argument you want to make, I'm sure you have some videotapes to return as well. He spoke about narratives on social media as if they were a disease that needed to be treated, calling them very damaging. It infects real people that are out there, people I meet with every single day, he said, and added, "You wonder where this stuff comes from." But Newsom was quickly criticized for his focus on misinformation while his state remains on fire. While his state remains on fire. New fires breaking out seemingly by the moment. Disgraced Governor Gavin Newsom is more concerned about fighting misinformation than helping Californians, wrote Representative Wesley Hunt of Texas on X. There are two big points that I want to make from this, and neither of them has to do with being a liberal, being a conservative, being a libertarian, being a couch turtle, whatever it is. I don't care. Neither of them have anything to do with that. It has to do with the arguments employed by the slimy one himself. Part of the reason this is so ridiculous is that by dodging criticism of the policy that he is putting in place, that he has put in place, as well as all of the policies that he has vetoed along the way, policies of scraping the ground in the forest, policies of keeping reservoirs full, policies of putting power lines underground, all of these things that he vetoed along the way, that is what is politicizing this. Those are actual things that he has implemented and vetoed that have made the state of California oh so very dangerous. Everyone is allowed to criticize those things. That's the job you did. People are not criticizing whatever color tie you're wearing or suit that you're wearing because that happens to be the side that you play on, what jersey it is that you have on. No, if this were a Republican, a deep Republican who had done the same lame-brained things, people would be tearing them down as well. Politicians are open to criticism. Politicians need to be criticized. That's just part of the job. You get to make these big boy decisions, Gavi. Then you get to take the big boy criticisms. And that's the ironic part of this. But it's not the most insidious part of this. It's not the most disgusting part of this. It's not the part of this that should make your skin crawl to the livelong day. Here's what should be shutting you off so heavily about this. Notice that the immediate impulse here is directly to censorship. Gavin Newsom is being criticized for the absolute banal and ridiculous things that he has put into place. And his immediate response is, hey, you know how he does his little hands, like he's in a rap video, he's doing this stuff. These people who are criticizing me for the things that I have done, this is just misinformation. It's just disinformation. Calling it misinformation is to suggest that the California government was woefully unprepared for a disaster that is woefully common is an outright and belligerent call to censorship. That's all it is. There is nothing along that thought process, that line. Anything there that could be considered opinion is opinion. not misinformation or disinformation. Everything along that route that is just pointing to the things you've done, that's fact. You don't get to call fact misinformation, disinformation, because what you're doing there, the mechanism that you're trying to toggle, is to say that people who are criticizing me shouldn't be allowed to, and I'm going to make up the reasons why. Who gets to say that these opinions and the facts along the way are misinformation? Do you know why the laws around censorship are so hands-off? It went to court. It was a trial about pornography and obscenity. The question rises out of this, out of suggesting that some pornography has to be censored. The question that rises out of that is, who do you trust to decide what is too obscene for you? Who do you trust to decide you don't get to see X, Y, and Z? And then, here's the next subsequent thing. If X, Y, and Z are simply too obscene, what did that obscenity do to the person who was responsible for judging it? Because if the answer is nothing, the person who was there to decide that this was too obscene is just fine at the end of the day. It wasn't very obscene, now was it? So here, the obvious question is, who do you trust to judge what is misinformation? What is disinformation? And is that person Gavin Limptic Newsom? Because for me, it is not. I do not want the likes of this swamp creature, this absolute delirious nut job, telling me what is misinformation or disinformation. I will judge that for myself. I will go out on the limb and decide, I think the fact that you have vetoed so many things which would be fire preventative in your own state, makes you an absolute moron. That's my opinion. I get to have it. You don't get to decide what information I ingest along the way to that decision, because that's what it is. Here's what these people are trying to do. And I'm not talking about the left. I'm sure that there are plenty of people on the right trying to do this as well. We don't see it as often. We certainly don't see it as often right now. Here's what they're trying to do in an analogy. You want to be healthy and fit. You want to run a 6-minute mile. You want to bench press 350 pounds. You want to deadlift 500 and you want to squat 450. Those are pretty good goals. Those would make you healthy and strong. Maybe you would look like RFK. These people are saying, okay, yeah, that's great, but there's some problems along the way. The things you've heard about protein simply are not true. Fruity Pebbles make you strong. Electrolytes, that's what plants need. There are a lot of things that really would do you some good in French fries. So all they're allowing you to eat is this garbage. You're never going to bench 350. You're never going to run a 6-minute mile. None of these goals will ever happen. These people, these censorship-mad morons, these kings of corruption, are feeding you a steady diet of BS. They are feeding you a steady diet of stupidity. They are feeding you a steady diet of the actual mis and disinformation. Now, the people on my side of things aren't saying you shouldn't be able to eat Fruity Pebbles, aren't saying that you can't get some French fries. We're saying that you have to deal with the consequences of those French fries. You have to deal with the consequences of those Fruity Pebbles. You want to just ingest all of this misinformation, disinformation, stupidity from different sources online? That's fine. From different sources in the mainstream media? That's fine. Go ahead. But don't expect me to make the same decisions. But so long as they are controlling the food supply of information, idiots like Gavin Newsom will put up all the BS necessary to stop you from having the tools, eating the diet, to really judge their actions.